children, listening to their parents argue over a matter that, for good or evil, would shape all their lives to come, and wishing that both parents could be right. Mr. Douglas would speak for a while, marshaling his arguments with care and generosity towards Bowden, with sympathetic understanding of the old man's objectives and firm disapproval of his means, not on principle, but for practical reasons. And Shields and I would nod as if thinking, yes, Harper's Ferry is a steel trap. We will get in and never be able to get out. And if by some miracle we do fight our way through the outraged townspeople and avoid being cut to pieces by the local militiamen as we flee the Shenandoah Valley into the wilderness, then yes, the federal army will be arrayed against us and will in a short while cut us off in our mountain retreat and will lay down a siege from which our only escape will be death by starvation or a bullet. And yes, our raid and the mere threat of a slave rebellion it poses will bring down upon the head of every Negro in the South untold suffering, lynchings, mutilations, chains, for the worst sort of oppression imaginable would be the inevitable consequence of raising fear of a slave revolt in the hearts of white Southerners. And yes, the Northern whites will not come to our aid, for they will never go to war against their white brethren in the defense of black people and a handful of white radical abolitionists. It is an absurd plan, absurd and cruel beyond belief. Then, as the sun passed overhead, we moved towards the western Pennsylvania hills, and the shadows of the rock that surrounded us grew long. Father would commence to answer, and now Shields and I nodded in support of his reasoning too, saying to ourselves, yes, we can take the town by surprise and hold it by means of hostages long enough to capture sufficient weaponry to arm the hundreds, perhaps thousands of slaves who will surely seize the opportunity to rise against their masters once they know they are being led by men they trust as warriors and men of principle. And yes, we can flee to safety in the densely forested mountains of the South, and with 100 bands of disciplined, well-armed guerrilla fighters, we can hold off any army for months, even years, during which time our ranks will swell to such numbers that the southern states, just to restore their economy, will make peace with their workers. For is that not, after all, who has gone to war against them, their workers? In the end, Frederick, it's right principles and simple economics that will settle this thing in our favor, Father said, and I could not disagree. Until Mr. Douglas, in his low, melodious, melancholy voice, answered, no, John, it's race that will settle it, and it will settle it against us. Race and simple arithmetic, not principles, not economics. Simply put, there are more of you in this country than of us. This is not Haiti or Jamaica, and the northern United States are not a separate nation than the southern United States. It's race, John, skin color, hair, and physiognomy. You say us, John, and you mean all Americans willing to go to war to end slavery. But every other American who says us means race, means us white people, or us Negroes. You are a noble, good man, but you are nearly alone in this country. Even me, when I say us, I mean we Negroes. And you will not join me. John, I cannot. My practical judgment forbids it. My conscience forbids it. My love of my people forbids it. You're making my task all the more difficult. Without you beside me, my boys, my men, he stopped and could not speak for a moment. Without you, he continued, the slaves won't rise up and follow me in such numbers. Mr. Douglas placed his heavy hands on the father's narrow shoulders and looked into the old man's eyes, and I thought that both men would weep when their eyes were full. Please, come away from this. Come back with me, John. Let your son here return to Virginia by himself and send him back home. Fight this war on another front. This is the only front left. Mr. Douglas turned away and said to Shields, I shall return home to Rochester. If you wish, you may go back with me, or you may stay. You've heard all the arguments as well as I. Shields looked at the ground and said nothing. Father reached out and touched Mr. Douglas's sleeve, and in a soft, plaintive voice, almost a whisper, he said, when I strike, the bees will begin to swarm, I will need you to help hide from me. It was a trope that he had used many times, and he spoke it mechanically, as if his thoughts, as if he himself were elsewhere now. Mr. Douglas did not answer. He looked again at Shields Green and said, "What have you decided to do?" Shields turned his face, not to Mr. Douglas, but to Father, and he replied, "I believe I'll go with the old man." Mr. Douglas nodded, and slowly shook hands with us one by one. And when he had finished, he embraced us each in a heartfelt way, one by one, as if it were he who was going to war, and not me. And then he departed from us straightway for his home in Rochester. That same night, Father, Shields Green, and I returned with